Good morning to you. It is a Monday. That's right. That's the bad news. The good news is we're zooming by in this year. It's May the 3rd, and we've got a great half hour for you. Stick around. You've got your HCC news and information and more. And it's also the kickoff of AAPI month. What does that mean? We'll talk more about that in a second. Raquel Sims is joining us now from her home out in Stafford. She's got a Fort Bend update and more. Good morning, Raquel.
Good morning, Todd. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm extremely excited about today's show. And also, we are in the month of May because guess what tomorrow is? It's my birthday.
Oh, so you got a birthday this week. Brittany had a birthday last week. It's just birthday central around here. Are you still accepting cards, gifts, and letters for your birthday?
Of course. It wouldn't even be right if I didn't do so. So yes. If you are not doing so already, please follow us on all of our social media platforms. So that way you can share this Up to the Minute podcast, get people involved, and also find out what's going on and keep up with us with the latest things that are going on. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Well, happy birthday. You won't be here tomorrow though, right?
No.
Okay. But so we're going to celebrate your birthday today. I'm sure you've been celebrating all week. And that's fine. That's perfectly good as long as you don't do it between the hours of like 8 and 6. Okay. Save the tequila for afterwards. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Raquel Sims joining us out in Stafford. Thanks, Raquel. We'll be back with you shortly. All right. Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, he's here every beginning of the month, and we're going to talk a little mental health awareness. Dr. Fitzpatrick, good to see you, Sean.
So good to be here, and happy birthday, Raquel.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have more well wishes for Raquel as we move forward. All right, Dr. Sean, stick around. We'll be checking in with you very shortly. All right, at the top of the show, though, Dr. Nithy Sevanthinathan. He is the director of HCC's International Student Services. Nithy, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Todd. Happy birthday, Raquel. Hey, what a great way to celebrate AAPI with one of our colleagues.
Tell us, okay, we mentioned AAPI at the top of the show, but we want to recognize this month. Tell us what it means and what we're talking about.
Oh, Todd, thank you. I think this is a great initiative by the Office of Institutional Equity. It's called Asian American Pacific Islanders. Remember, each one of us from every part of the world who comes to the United States do bring something very valuable, the cultural heritage. So this month, we are focusing on Asian American Pacific Islanders. It is a very rich culture. I want us to be very mindful when we talk about rich culture. Every single culture that exists in the United States is very rich. But this time, we are focusing on the AAPI to learn about them, what they bring in, what are the rules and what are the experience, how do they be part of the nation building exchange. And HCC have a very, very diverse community of AAPI. It's very fascinating and we are very blessed to share this moment to all our friends and colleagues here in HCC and to the larger community.
Yeah, and we were approached last month by the Office of Institutional Equity and Inclusion and wanted to ask us if, what we could do for this month. So we tossed around some ideas. So people this month will be seeing social media posts. We also have a number of guests coming on this show, and we're going to be celebrating this all throughout the month of May, of course, kicking it off today. So you'll see a lot of things happening. Nithy, we've got restaurants coming on this month. But most importantly, which I think is going to be fascinating, each week we're going to have a guest on our shows that talks about their immigration story. And that is going to really put a highlight on really what students bring not only to this country, but their experience coming to this country. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Beautifully said, Todd. Remember, though, don't look at the person by saying, oh, my God, you look like Asian. Look, Asian is a very diverse population. For an example, everybody in HCC think I'm an Indian. Exactly. I'm an Indian origin, but I grew up in Malaysia. Completely a different experience, different cultural understanding. My mother tongue is supposed to be Tamil, but in public education, I went to learn to speak another language called Bahasa. So please, it's very important. There's a common saying, don't judge the book by the cover. Experience the people, learn about them, exchange ideas. And that's what HCC is all about. We have one of the largest international student population, but also It's very important to understand there is diversity within diversity. We have the African American, Asian American, we have the Hispanic American, the Anglo American, and the Native American. All these what brings cultural exchange. It's very important for us to understand and learn about these people. For this month, we talk about the Asian American Pacific Islanders. Again, I want to emphasize, don't judge the person by the cover of the book.
Well, you're talking so many cultures, so many countries, because under this umbrella of AAPI, we could be stretching from the Hawaiian Islands to Korea, Philippines, China. I mean, it just goes on. And as you mentioned, into Malaysia and into Asia as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's about close to 48 countries. Remember, Asia is always divided by Middle East, Southeast Asia, South Asia. So it's a very, if you understand them, and all these countries is very fascinating because all of them speaks different language, different cultural experience, different cultural events. So you will see most of them in HCC. It's very fascinating when you hear another language. Like I'm going to say one language that I know very well. I'm going to say welcome, apa kabar, welcome in my language. So that's how you hear that. What is that? So that's how the learning is. You know, when they come here, they learn English. Remember, all of us have an accent when we say certain things in this world. That's what all about cultural experience.
You know, it is. And Houston is just really, Houston's a melting pot. And I think Absolutely. That's part of our heritage now. I mean, it's amazing to me. I can go to a restaurant in the Montrose area. Someone at the table next to me could be speaking Spanish. In front of me, they could be speaking Farsi. And behind me, they could be speaking, Chinese. I mean, and it's all, and that's just one restaurant, and that's all across Houston. And guess what, folks? I could be at a Tex-Mex restaurant or a burger shop, and the same thing's going to happen. That's the way we are here in Houston.
Oh, beautifully said, Todd. Remember, it's interesting when even you go try experience different type of food, even in the American restaurant, you will see tofu barbecue.
Yeah.
Think about it. Where that came from?
Now, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of tofu barbecue, but I've had some Korean barbecue that's incredible. I've had some Southern barbecue. The only barbecue I'm not a fan of is when I go up to Tennessee. I'm sorry, but they don't know how to make barbecue up there. Don't know. They take it, they chop it up, they put sauce on it. It's just not barbecue. But really, barbecue, barbacoa, it all comes under different names, and it's all a part of the culture that we're all in right now. Let's talk about the role of the AAPI in the workforce, because that's a big thing coming to Houston. Everybody wants to go to Houston Community College, but ultimately, I think everyone wants to go out and be able to get a sustainable job in the future.
Beautifully said, Todd, because remember, though, one of the things that I've learned, coming from an Asian culture, and I'm sure this exists in every single cultural upbringing, where they're very driven. The Asian populations are very driven, very hardworking, because they are the new immigrants in this country. They come from almost 48 countries around the Asian region, but they're here for one reason: work hard, be part of the community, be part of the exchange. But, lately we've been hurting them through some kind of a hate crime that's going around the country. But the more you know this part of the community, you'll be pleasantly surprised how joyful, how they exchange. They are not here to disrupt anything. They are here to be part of this community, to learn, exchange, and grow, and contribute to one important thing, to the nation building of this country. That's what they are here. This is what we need to recognize them. That's what we need to include them. We can't just say, you're Asian, stay in one side of the town. No, we need to include them in all our exchange, and you'll be pleasantly surprised how much it will help in our nation building conversation.
And finally, Nithy, just real quickly, some Asian Americans that are on some lists of firsts. Maybe you can mention a few of these as we wrap up.
Oh yeah. We talk about Chinese, the Philippines, Malaysian, Singaporean, Laotian, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Japanese, South Koreans. What else? Middle Easterns from Oman, Saudi, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan.
Right.
There's more. Hawaii, the Pacific Islands. Oh, the journey is very broad. I think I've traveled to many parts of these countries. sometimes I'm like, is that the right thing to do? Is that how they say welcome? So I try to learn as well, despite I grew up in an Asian region, doesn't mean that we speak the same language. And you will see them. Even the costume that I'm wearing now is from Malaysia. It's called batik, So think about it. Everybody brings that. We see that in every single culture that rise up in the United States.
Incredible. And I'm liking that shirt there, Nithy. You're rocking that shirt. So find me one of those as well.
Yeah, I'll look next time when I travel, I'll bring one for you, Todd.
Let me know. I'm interested in that. Nithy Sevanthinathan, he's the director of HCC's International Student Services. Okay, folks, throughout this whole month, AAPI, you're going to learn more about it. We've got restaurants coming on, guests coming on, and Nithy's kicking it off. Nithy, thanks for joining us. Always good to see you. You've been out there doing any running lately?
Oh, yes. And without further ado, I'd like to say absolutely. And I'd like to say, terima kasih, Todd. Jumpa lagi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nithy. You take care of yourself.
Yes.
All right, folks, registration's underway, by the way. And students, if you're looking to learn more about our international program, make sure you log on to our website, hccs.edu, and type in international students. It'll bring up all the information there. All right, Mental Health Monday. We're moving on to Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick. He's the executive director of the Hume Center in Houston. Sean, good to see you.
Good to see you, Todd. Thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. So been hearing a word pop up, and maybe we can talk about it over the last year. It certainly makes sense. Resilience. It could be vague, a bit ambiguous, but what would the word mean to you in mental health?
Well, so I'll give you the formal definition. Okay, so the formal definition from the American Psychological Association is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. We don't know anything about that this year, such as family and relationship problems, serious health problems, or workplace and financial stressors. As much as resilience involves bouncing back from these difficult experiences, it can also involve profound personal growth. So that
sounds a lot like me as resilience and perseverance.
Yeah. So it's a word that, just to be honest, I have been pretty allergic to, and it's for a very specific reason. It's because often the word is used in inaccurately. So often it's used kind of as a way of saying, if you're suffering, you just need more resilience. Like you just need to be tougher. You need to have a thicker skin. And what that can do is it kind of shut us down. Yeah. There's a wonderful scholar actually over at Rice University. Her name is Danielle King, and she studies resilience in the workplace. And she defines resilience a little bit more simply as simply continuing to pursue a goal in the face of adversity, right? So it sounds like perseverance, right? And one more, I say maybe even simpler than that, which is that to think of it, I always hang on to one of these rubber bands, right? Because resilience comes from like a lot of concepts in psychology. It's borrowed from another discipline, and in this case, it's borrowed from material science. So initially, resilience is used as a word to describe the ability of a substance to bounce back after it has and return to its original shape after it's experienced a trauma or an impact or it's been stretched in some way. And a good synonym for that is elasticity, right? It's the ability to stretch and then come back to your original shape.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense there. A lot of folks can really get the whole rubber band theory because, it is like material science. We all get back to our original shape. This whole last year, 13 months, 14 months, however long we've been in the shutdown, we've all transformed into other things. We've become home workers, people who work in their living room, and getting back into society and, going to maybe concerts again, some people going out to restaurants. That's going to be tough for people, much less going to an office setting, which we were talking about early. So I guess, resilience is how you respond to those things and getting back into life.
Yeah. And so, that's a really good way of talking about it. And I'll tell you too, so one more sort of added dimension to this, which is that, and this again refers to Dr. King and her research. She talks about maladaptive resilience. So resilience is actually kind of a neutral concept. That maladaptive resilience is when we continue to pursue a goal in the face of adversity, despite the fact that it's having a negative impact on our well-being. And so it's possible to be resilient and actually do yourself harm. And to your point about, well, we're going to be going back, right? We're using this language where we're going back into restaurants and going back into these places. There's a question about whether returning to our original shape is what we actually want.
Yeah.
That there are new patterns that have emerged through the pandemic, new ways that we might want to be, old patterns we might want to get rid of, old shapes that we occupy that we might want to let go of. And so that goal that we're pursuing is what we need to be questioning. Well, what is our primary goal? And a primary goal should always be, you should always start with our own well-being. So does this serve me to go back to this pattern?
Is it okay? And thinking of that, going back to the pattern, if in our old previous lives, pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of things. We were commuting to work. We were working at the office 8 or more hours a day. And then coming home, spending time with our family on weekends and all that. Now our lives have changed. Is it okay in a business world to say, you know what, I didn't like that commute, or I enjoy working from home. I feel like I'm more productive in this way. Can you build a case for that now and still feel reasonable, like I'm still being productive, but I kind of enjoy the way things are going right now?
I'm a big believer in this, and I am the executive director. I have we have a staff at the Jung Center. We've all been talking about this internally about what is it that really is important here. And I would say there are two sides of that, at least for me. I'll just speak personally to that idea of, I do feel when I'm at home, I feel as though I'm able to be productive in different ways than when I'm at the office. And I think that as a team, we will integrate that into the way that we do business moving forward. I think the shadow side of it for me is that, so 3 days a week, I don't go into the office. 3 days a week, I don't commute an hour and a half. If you include all of that time in the car, what am I doing with that extra hour and a half? I am working. Yeah.
Well, I mean, your days get longer and you start earlier, but I'm kind of okay with that, Sean. The payoff is really not that bad.
Yeah, it all goes back to how it's affecting our well-being, right? And our ability to meet the goals, to be present in our lives in the way that we want to be present in our lives, and is it being affected in a negative way? That's the simple metric.
Right. You knew where you were talking about. I think you were talking about Dr. King's work and talking about going towards a goal, but overall it affects your well-being in your life, maybe your home life. And I can compare that to several years ago when I was training for an Ironman. I was out all the time running. I was eating like crazy, to try to get enough calories in me. And overall, when I think about it, I'm glad I did it. But the training was heck, and it certainly took a lot out of my home life, and it just, and I guess you got to weigh the two options. A lot of people face that, you may be training towards this one goal or trying to get to this one goal, but what is it doing to your current life? And that's what I look at.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And again, I would just circle back to the difference between being aware of that and unaware of it. So if you're aware of it and you make choices about it, conscious choices about it, that, for this period of my life, I'm going to pay less attention to this this aspect of my life that's really important so that I can be in service to this other goal, then right? And you can prepare the people that it's going to affect and get them on board with you, about it. They can understand how important it is for you to go through that period of time. It is, in the end, all about just making those decisions consciously and not sort of having them made for you or through you.
Sean, we mentioned earlier, it's AAPI month, and at the you have a workshop at the Jung Center in honor of Asian Americans. Maybe you can tell us about that.
Well, I want to talk about two things. First of all, there's a class this week that starts called Popcorn Psychology, and it happens that the first film that we're working with is Parasite, the South Korean film that won the Best Picture a couple weeks ago. That starts on Wednesday. You can go to our website and learn about that. What I really want to talk about is a bystander intervention training that is being sponsored not by the Jung Center. The Jung Center is a part of this organization. Mm-hmm. It's called Houston Coalition Against Hate. And the bystander intervention training, there are 6 of them. I think they've had 1 or maybe 2 now, but there's one coming up in May and June and July and August. It may actually go through September. It's an hour and a half long, and it teaches you ways of intervening in situations where there's xenophobia, racism, violence against people because of their difference. Right. And it is sponsored by the Coalition Against Hate. You can go to HoustonAgainstHate.org to learn more. It is also crucially sponsored by OCA Houston and was developed specifically in response to racist and xenophobic actions against AAPI people.
And that's a very important subject right now. It seems like we're seeing a lot of that on the news, unfortunately, in this country. And so we encourage you to check that out. We'll have a link in the social media post for the Jung Center and their events, so you can look up that event as well. Sean, have you seen Parasite yourself?
I have, yes.
You have. Okay. So real quick story. My wife and I went to go see it at River Oaks when it came out about a year and a half ago. And we're watching the movie. She gets an important phone call, like right towards the last 10 minutes of the movie. Okay. So she steps out. She comes back in the movie. The movie ends, and she's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "You just got to look it up on the internet." How to explain that to you?
Yep, nope.
Go into that. So, folks, watch the movie all the way to the end. You might think it's this light little comedy to begin with, but boy, it takes a turn. Don't miss the end of it. Wow.
It's excellent. You can stream it on Hulu right now for free. Probably you can find it other places too.
It's an incredible movie. Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, he's with us every month. He's the executive director of the Jung Center of Houston. Make sure you check him out. We'll have your website at the link on the link of the show. Sean, it's always good to see you. Thank you for being here this month.
Such a pleasure. Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Take care. All right, we are going to move on to Raquel Sims out in Stafford. Good morning again, Raquel. What's going on out there?
Good morning. Good morning. Man, so much is going on. As I always mention, I'm just so fascinated with HCC and how they literally made the shift to accommodate their students throughout this entire pandemic crisis. So what really just inspired me was Randall had a chance to speak with the fine arts department. And, the main question we always ask is, when musicians perform, of course, they have to come together to work together and really, really build that audible art. But how do they rehearse if they aren't able to be in the same room? So Randall had a chance to speak with them about, what cool elements that that the professor put in place so that their students can, interact with each other and, practice their music while staying apart. So I thought that was super amazing because I know you used to be a musician too. So can you just imagine how hard it is not to practice with your band members?
Well, let me clarify something. I wasn't a musician. I sang in a hair metal band back in the 80s for a short period of time. There was no musicianship involved with my part. I just sang, and there was a lot of beer involved back then those days. So anyway, so just go on. I don't mean to throw you off, but I take the compliment, although there are a lot of people who are better singers and musicians, and hence the reasons why I don't do that anymore. Go ahead.
I love it. Well, actually really taking another shift. I have a question. Do you enjoy bird watching?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with that. One thing I do enjoy watching is every now and then I'll be on my balcony and the bats leave the Waugh colony and they'll fly right by our apartments in their swarm as they head out. And it is incredible. I love watching that. Birds, sure. Okay.
Oh, that's pretty fascinating to see. That's
incredible.
That's amazing. Well, speaking of birds, Randall Williams had a chance to explore bird watching for science with the Coastal Prairie chapter of the Texas Master Naturalists. They get out and they do this thing called the Big Sit, where they monitor birds and them swooping down, the bird callings and things of that sort. So I was like, that's pretty interesting to see what kind of birds come out, and they do certain things to make unique birds come forth, and they're like, so that was pretty interesting. Yeah. Another pretty interesting thing is, I don't know if anyone is familiar about the Model Mania show that comes to the city of Stafford every single year. So they are back, they are returning, and we're super excited. Fernando had a chance to speak with the the director of the entire program, to figure out how they're going to do things different this year. People are excited since they didn't do a Model Mania show last year. They're hyped to show everyone their new invention and new inventions. So I'm super excited about that as well. Have you been to the Model Mania show before?
I have not. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that story.
Yes, same here. I haven't had the chance to go, but I've always heard great things about it. But in the meantime, if you are not following us already, please follow us on our social media platform at HCC Southwest Stafford TV Studio, and make sure you stay up to date with us on all of our latest features. Thank you so much for having me, Todd, and thank you all for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. And happy birthday again. All right, Raquel, stick around. We got a few more things for you here. Next up, I want to mention that HCC has virtual coffee breaks. You know, Janet May, she's our Chief Human Resources Officer with Talent Engagement. She, every few weeks or every week or so, she's been doing this since we went into lockdown, and they're continuing virtually with our virtual coffee breaks. She brings on special guests. You can join them live online and through WebEx and ask questions. It's really an interesting thing. A lot of our staff attends those. The next one is happening tomorrow, 11 a.m., Tuesday, May 4th. Terrence Corrigan from Internal Auditing will be joining her for a discussion. You get a chance to listen to the discussion, ask some questions, and take a break, have a cup of coffee. So join them tomorrow. We'll have the link in the social media post for the show. Finals Mania. It's that time of year, Raquel, where our students are facing finals.
Yes, the time that every student looks forward to. Join this Zoom interactive session with study rooms designed to connect you with their peers, as well as stress relief sessions, which is amazing, especially during this time. If needed, it is happening on Thursday, May 6th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. The link will be in the post down below. And you can also contact Armando.Galvant Cruces at HCCS.edu, and that email will be provided as well.
That's right. Okay, so HCC is trying to become one of the first community colleges in the area that is going completely smoke-free. We have, in fact, if you need to quit smoking, we have smoke-free quit kits. That's right. Try saying that fast. You have a few more days to pick one up. HCC Quick Kits, the deadline to sign up is May the 6th. We'll have an email address where you can send them an email and get your quit kit. All right, students, free laptops and hotspots. That's available from our library, folks.
Yes, all of these wonderful resources are amazing. Thanks to HCC's public service librarians in the Rotaract Club, HCC students may qualify for free laptops and hotspots. Please go to library.hccs.edu/laptops and also library.hccs.edu/hotspots. We will have those links in our post right after the show for more information. Students, do not miss out on this opportunity to register and have the chance to qualify for a free laptop and a hotspot. You don't want to miss it.
Okay, we are running out of time in the show, so I want to jump ahead and let our director know we're going to talk about classes for the summer and the fall, because students, you can register now for not only the summer sessions, but the fall sessions. Right now, you can register for them. Registration's underway, and we've got 5 ways for you to learn or to learn on our campuses, everything from completely online to some hybrid courses where you do some online, in-person, and we are getting back on the campuses with our students with the return of face-to-face in-person classes. They're going to be very small to follow CDC guidelines. There may be very few of them. So students, if you want to go back to class in person, we'll have some safety guidelines for you to follow. But the main thing is register early to get the class you want, the professor you want, instructor, and get set up to get your classes in order. One website for you to go to is hccs.edu/now. All your registration needs are there. Sign up today. All right, tomorrow on the show, we've got some special guests.
Yes, we will have, speaking of Asian American, it's going to be a big month as we celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, kicking it off.
Well, hold on 1 second. Nithy was on today, so we've got the wrong setup for tomorrow. I can tell you, because I was reading through it, and I'm like, hey, that's from Friday. So, Raquel, I know tomorrow, I think we've got a restaurant on.
Yes.
And throughout AAPI month, as we mentioned, we're going to have some other guests as well, including some of our students who have immigrated here to the U.S. and are going to tell us their immigration story. So that'll be fascinating. All that throughout the month. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow. Raquel, you'll be back next week, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let us know how the birthday went. Happy birthday once again. And make sure you comment below, happy birthday to Raquel. Please do that.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
All right, Raquel, we'll see you next week. And folks, we'll be back live again tomorrow, 10 a.m. right here for Up to the Minute.